Welcome back. I'm Felix. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Another Untamed video. I think I'm just glutton for as soon as I see their name, I should just click away. I'm glutton for punishment. The last couple of videos of theirs kind of pissed me off. There was one about deaths, basically deaths that could have been prevented, and a bunch of kids lost their life as a result. And what was the other one? But then I watched another video. Wasn't theirs, but that one also pissed me off. I watched those two videos at the same time, and it's just like, I should not watch those back to back. But this one is 5 most bizarre deaths caused by food. My daughter has food allergies, and we're very cautious. That reminds me, I gotta make sure she has an EpiPen. She usually has it with her, so I can't remember. I think we just renewed it or got a new one. But yeah, so need to stock up on them before the price goes through the roof again. All right, let's see what foods cost someone their life.
Something we all need, but sometimes it can be deadly. In this video, we will look at 5 real stories of the most bizarre and tragic deaths caused by food.
I wonder how many of these would be allergies, like food allergies, versus like the food went bad.
These cases are strange and shocking, showing that even what we eat can be dangerous. It was April 4th, 2019 in Chorley, Lancashire. Darren Hickey, a 51-year-old wedding venue manager, was finishing his workday at Ridgemont House, which he managed with pride. Darren was admired for his resilience. 7 years earlier, he had survived a massive stroke that required an 18-month hospital stay. Despite ongoing challenges with walking and speaking, Darren built a meaningful life focused on charity work. His dedication earned him the Stroke Association's Inspirational Person of Courage Award. That afternoon, Darren's day took an unexpected turn. As he prepared to leave, a chef asked him to taste a fish cake for an upcoming event. Darren agreed, taking a small bite. Unbeknownst to him, the fish cake was extremely hot and burned his throat. Darren dismissed it as a minor discomfort, unaware of the serious consequences it would bring. Initially, Darren didn't think the injury was
I've eaten hot stuff. I wonder if it was because of his stroke.
severe. However, by afternoon, the pain grew worse. He informed his partner, Neil Parkinson, who encouraged him to seek medical help. Darren went to Chorley Hospital's urgent care ward, where he described the burning sensation and difficulty swallowing. A healthcare practitioner examined him and consulted an ENT specialist from Preston Hospital. Since the burn was deep in Darren's throat, it couldn't be seen without specialized equipment. With no visible injuries in his mouth or tongue, Darren was sent home with paracetamol and instructions to return if his symptoms worsened. Dr. Patrick Waugh, a pathologist who later conducted Darren's post-mortem, explained that such injuries were exceptionally rare. Burns to the throat is usually seen in cases involving extreme heat from industrial accidents or fire inhalation. Because the swelling caused by these burns develops slowly, symptoms may seem manageable initially but become life-threatening over time. This delay made Darren's condition difficult to identify and treat. Later that evening, Darren tried to rest at home, but his throat continued to swell. Around 9:45 p.m., Neil heard alarming sounds and found Darren choking and struggling to...
I know they can only do so much. They should have got the equipment. They should have got a specialist. I know doctors don't know everything, but sometimes just guessing is not the best answer.
breathe. Neil tried to help, but Darren collapsed. In a panic, Neil called for an ambulance. Unfortunately, a delay in locating their address added about 5 minutes to the emergency response. By the time paramedics arrived, the swelling had blocked Darren's airway entirely. He was rushed to Royal Bolton Hospital, but was pronounced dead in the early hours of April 5th, less than 12 hours after eating the fish cake. During the Bolton Coroner's Court inquest, acting senior coroner Alan Walsh described the case as a rare and devastating tragedy. Dr. Waugh testified that the burn caused Darren's voice box to swell, which ultimately blocked his breathing. He noted,
I kind of wonder if he should have, if the patient, I said the patient, I can't remember his name now. I kind of wonder if he ignored some of the symptoms too. No, and he should have went back sooner. I'm not trying to put the blame on him. I'm just thinking, because I do that. I have a bad habit to do that, where I'll ignore symptoms before I'll go to the doctor.
in diagnosing the injury, given the absence of visible burns in Darren's mouth. The coroner also raised concerns about Darren's care at Chorley Hospital.
That's what I said earlier, they guessed.
While acknowledging the unusual nature of the injury, he stressed the importance of thorough evaluations and advanced diagnostic tools in similar cases. Representatives from GTD Healthcare and NHS Greater Preston Clinical Commissioning Group assured the court they would review the incident to prevent future occurrences. Darren's death deeply impacted his loved ones and the community. Friends, family and colleagues remembered him as a kind and courageous individual who overcame immense challenges. His charity work and positive outlook inspired many, making his sudden loss even more heartbreaking. Darren's story reminds us of how small incidents can lead to unexpected tragedies. It underscores the need for caution in everyday life and vigilance in medical care. While nothing can bring Darren back, his case is a call to action to ensure similar outcomes are avoided in the future.
Yeah, in one of the videos I watched earlier, it was negligence that was taking these kids' life. Just little things here and there could have saved those kids' life. And that's the same thing in this situation. With the doctor, he could have been overworked, half awake. But still, in that kind of profession, it's better to be over-vigilant than not vigilant at all. Because if that doctor just done one more test or got that special instrument to look, would have seen that, oh, your voice box is damaged. You know, could have seen the damage down in there and made him stay.
It was October 10th, 2014 in Rhyl, Wales, when 75-year-old Vera Williams, who lived at least...
No picture? I'm trying to think. Of all the ones I've watched, this is the first time I think they had no picture.
Tudor faced a tragic chain of events that began with a simple breakfast. That morning she was eating toast when a sharp fragment became lodged in her throat, causing immediate discomfort. However,
Fragment of the toast? How hard was she cooking her toast?
it seemed like a minor issue, which began a devastating turn of events. Vera, who had a history of severe heart disease, visited the accident and emergency unit at Isbity Glan CLW WID, reporting pain.
Try saying that 12 times fast. Jeez.
Throat. She was seen by junior doctor Noor Ismail, who assessed her condition and found no signs of serious illness. Without further tests, Vera was sent home. Over the
Again, didn't do enough. I'm sorry they didn't.
next 2 weeks, the pain in Vera's throat persisted, but she didn't immediately seek further medical help. On October 23rd, she returned to the hospital and was examined by Dr. Adedeji Adeleke. She mentioned pain in her neck but didn't explain that it had been continuous since her initial visit. Without understanding the full scope of her symptoms, Dr. Adeleke suspected an infection, prescribed antibiotics, and discharged her the following day.
They didn't look down her throat. I'm sorry, I feel like the doctor didn't look down her throat. He just went by what she described and get her in, get her out. Fortunately, there's a lot of hospitals like that, not just in the U.S., but overseas as well. And the doctors just get them in, get them out.
The real issue, however, remained undetected. On October 24th, Vera's condition worsened dramatically. She began coughing up blood and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors conducted a thorough examination, including a CT scan.
They had done that in the first place. That's what they should have done in the first place.
The sharp piece of toast had torn her esophagus, leading to a rupture, a rare and serious condition known as an esophageal perforation. This injury had caused blood to leak into her intestines, explaining her symptoms and recent bleeding. Esophageal tears are exceptionally rare, occurring in about 3 cases per million people. Unfortunately, the delay in identifying the problem left limited treatment options. Due to Vera's severe heart condition, surgery, the most effective solution, was deemed too risky. Her medical team...
She was going to die either way. Should have just did it. You'll see this on like medical TV shows. Well, the heart condition will keep us from doing it. And then you hear about it in real life. It's like, they're dead either way. Just do the surgery.
On managing her condition, but despite their efforts, Vera's health declined rapidly. She passed away a few days later. Vera's death led to a review to determine if earlier detection or intervention could have changed the outcome.
Yes! I don't need a review. The answer is yes.
The inquest highlighted the challenges faced by the medical team. Dr. Marion Hughes, a senior consultant in emergency medicine, reviewed the case and stated that the doctors acted appropriately based on the information available at the time.
That's like when cops would screw up. They say based on information at the time, and then you see the body cam footage, and it's like that is not what the cop said.
She noted that esophageal tears were so rare that most doctors wouldn't suspect them without clear signs. With nearly 40 years of experience, Dr. Hughes admitted she had never encountered such a case. However, the inquest also highlighted systemic issues in the hospital's operations. At the time, Ispiti Glansielwid used paper records, which made it harder for doctors to track patients' medical histories. Coroner Nicola Jones suggested that if electronic records had been in place, Dr. Adeleke might have been better informed about Vera's earlier visit. This could have raised suspicions about a more serious issue. Still, it's being determined whether, even with better records, the outcome would have been different, given Vera's pre-existing health problems. The case of Vera Williams is a heartbreaking example of how an everyday activity, like eating breakfast, can unexpectedly lead to severe consequences. Her story also highlights the importance of clear communication between patients and doctors.
I actually get on my wife about this. She has a bad habit leaving stuff out when she talks to the doctor. I have to tell the doctor everything. I think she feels like it's going to the principal's office or something. I don't like going to the doctor mainly because it costs money. And I'll tell the doctor stuff. Like, I told him I wasn't picking up the medication because you just gave me this medication. I'm not switching medications. Not yet. You just have me pick this one up. It's still a full bottle. I'm not switching medication. When this one runs out, then I'll get the other one. And the doctor kind of like she wanted to yell at me. I'm thinking, I dare you. I just looked at her like, I dare you. She didn't.
Vera had mentioned the ongoing nature of her symptoms during her second visit. It would have led to more thorough investigations. Ultimately, her death was caused by a rare and unforeseen medical condition. While the doctors involved acted based on the information they had, the tragedy underscores the need for improved systems to ensure patients' histories are accessible and considered during treatment. It was February 25th, 2010, in Invercargill.
I'm trying to remember, have all these been overseas? Were any in America? Was that first one in America? Yeah, well.
Cargill, a quiet town on New Zealand's South Island. Christopher Hodgkinson discovered his partner of 15 years, Natasha Harris, slumped against the bathroom wall. She was struggling to breathe, her breaths shallow and labored. Despite attempts to save her, Natasha passed away from cardiac arrest. She was only 30 years old. Natasha left behind 8 young children and a partner grieving her loss. Her death
8 kids at 30? Damn.
revealed a troubling dependency, not on drugs or alcohol, but on Coca-Cola.
Oh, that reminds me of a story I saw once where a woman was drinking Coca-Cola all the time. No water, nothing. It was just Coke. That was her drink of choice.
Natasha's addiction began in her teenage years. Over time, her soda consumption escalated to 10 liters a day, equivalent to 18 pints. This amount exceeded the recommended daily sugar intake by more than 11 times and doubled the safe caffeine limit. Her daily routine revolved around Coke, starting her day with a glass and ending it the same way. Without it, she suffered withdrawal symptoms like irritability and trembling. Her mother-in-law, Vivian Hodgkinson, described how Natasha became extremely agitated if Coke was unavailable.
That is an addiction.
For years, Natasha experienced various health issues, including fatigue, nausea, and heart palpitations. She vomited multiple times a week and struggled with energy levels. However, neither she nor her family connected these symptoms to her Coke consumption.
This is one of those cases, if someone should have just drugged her to the hospital, just knocked her out and made her go to the hospital.
Attributing them to stress or unrelated health problems. The effects of her habit were devastating. Natasha's teeth decayed completely and had to be removed, a direct result of the high sugar content in her diet. One of her children was born without tooth enamel, which doctors linked to Natasha's soda intake during pregnancy. Internally, her body suffered severe damage. An autopsy showed her liver was enlarged with fatty deposits caused by excessive sugar. She also had hypokalemia, a condition marked by dangerously low potassium levels which can cause heart issues. Pathologist Dr. Dan Mornin explained that her symptoms, muscle weakness, fatigue, and vomiting, were consistent with this condition. Her
Wait, what was that disease called?
levels which can cause An autopsy showed her liver was enlarged with fatty deposits caused by excessive sugar. She also had hypokalemia, a condition.
Hypokalemia. I need to look that up. I have low potassium, and you can see my potassium dropping as I got older, and so far I haven't got anyone to actually look into it. I tried to get someone to look into it, and pretty much butted heads with the doctor because they wouldn't listen. It's like, I'm not coming to see you if you're not going to listen. But I need to look into that.
Condition marked by dangerously low potassium levels which can cause heart issues. Pathologist Dr. Dan Mornin explained that her symptoms, muscle weakness, fatigue and vomiting, were consistent with this condition. Her caffeine consumption also contributed to her irregular heartbeat, which ultimately...
Now, I don't drink nowhere near as much caffeine as she does. Nowhere near. And my teeth are a little, they're not pearly white anymore, but they're still in good shape. One thing about my teeth, every dentist that's seen them are shocked because they have long roots. And apparently that is very rare.
On the day she passed, Natasha didn't appear alarmingly unwell, though she complained of feeling unwell. Later, Christopher found her unresponsive in the bathroom. Despite calling for help, paramedics were unable to save her. An inquest into Natasha's death highlighted the extreme impact of her soda addiction. Coroner David Crerar concluded that her excessive coke intake played a significant role in her cardiac arrest. He stated her death was unlikely to have happened when it did and how it did, without her extreme soda consumption. The combination of sugar and caffeine caused serious metabolic imbalances, including hypokalemia.
There was one case where I remember someone else who died from a pop addiction, and they tried to blame Coke for it. I want to say they even tried to sue, but they lost because it was like they were an adult. They had to go out and buy it. It wasn't like Coke was given away for free. It wasn't like Coke was standing on a corner and saying, "Hey, come try some. First sample's free." You know, they were the one who chose to drink that much pop.
Experts noted that consuming up to 8 liters of liquid daily can be harmful, even without factoring in sugar and caffeine. Coca-Cola Oceania expressed disappointment in the findings, arguing there was no consensus on the exact cause of Natasha's heart attack and stating they could not control how much of their product consumers choose to
That's what I was just saying.
drink. In response, the coroner recommended actions to prevent similar cases. He urged Coca-Cola to include caffeine on labels and add warnings about excessive consumption.
I thought there was already caffeine labels on there. In America, I know it says caffeine on them. I don't have a... Because I know on Sprite it says caffeine free. I think other stuff it just says caffeine, or you just assume there's caffeine.
Also called on the New Zealand Ministry of Health to consider stricter regulations on caffeinated beverages.
No. It is not Coke's fault. I hate when they do that. It wasn't the company's fault. I'm not a person who defends the company, but in this case, it was 100% not the company's fault. She drank way too much pop. Way too much.
However, some experts doubted whether warning labels would have changed Natasha's behavior.
No, it would not have. She was an addict. If it had been meth or cocaine or marijuana or something else, they would not be calling for stricter regulations on Coca-Cola and stuff. Likely they have tried to control drugs, and the war on drugs was a complete failure. Actually, I think it increased the drug use.
Catherine Rich of the NZ Food and Grocery Council noted that Natasha also smoked heavily and ignored medical advice for...
Yeah, that conveniently got left out in the beginning, didn't it? I guarantee you probably the coroner and all them just leave that part out.
Other health issues, suggesting broader lifestyle factors contributed to her death. Family members described Natasha as a loving mother who prioritized her children above all else, often
Not a Coke habit.
at her own expense. She skipped meals to ensure her kids had enough and spent weeks planning their birthdays to make them special. Her sister, Raylene Finlayson, shared how Natasha's dependency on Coke became a coping mechanism in a difficult life. Struggling with feelings of being trapped and hopeless, she used Coke as others might turn to alcohol or drugs, for comfort. After her death, Natasha's partner struggled to care for their children, who were eventually placed into state care. Christopher faced additional challenges, including legal issues and financial strain. Natasha Harris's story is a warning about the dangers of unchecked habits. Her
Kind of were those his kids? They really didn't specify that all 8 of those were his. So
family hopes her tragic death will raise awareness about the potential risks of excessive soda consumption.
well, you do anything in excess, it can be dangerous. Too much water can be dangerous. You got to be careful. You don't want to overdo it with anything.
And the broader struggles tied to dependency. It was July 20th, 2022, in Mumbai, India, a city teeming with life. For 27-year-old Rekha Nishad, life wasn't without struggles.
Another one, no image.
But she faced them with resilience. She lived in a modest home in Malad West Pascal Wadi area with her husband and brother-in-law. The family led a simple life, managing the everyday challenges of urban living. For weeks, their home had been plagued by a persistent rat problem. Determined to address it, Rekha came up with what
I think there was an issue on some farms in America, and I believe it was in Australia. The farms were infested with rats. I can't remember if it was the U.S. or the American one or the Australian one. They ended up just having to poison the whole field. They had to poison all their land in order to get them. And then the other one, I think, started burning the land. They set the land on fire, and it drove them out. They had no place to run except straight into the fire. But yeah, this happened this morning. You think, like, rats will breed like 4 or 5, maybe more at a time, and then they can just keep rebreeding, and they'll do incest, and it can get out of hand real fast.
she believed was an effective solution. She injected poison into a few tomatoes, intending to use them as bait for the pests. That evening, Rekha returned home after a tiring day. Hoping for a quick and comforting meal, she prepared instant noodles. Her favorite TV show played in the background as she cooked, providing a rare moment of relaxation. Distracted by the show, Rekha accidentally picked up one poisoned tomato and added it to her noodles. Oblivious to the danger, she stirred the
She killed herself.
cooking. Rekha sat down to eat, unaware of the mistake. After her meal, she began to feel unwell. At first, she thought it was an upset stomach, perhaps from something else she had eaten. However, her symptoms rapidly worsened with intense
If I poison food, I'm putting it away. It's going to sit far, far, far away from the other food. That will not happen to me.
nausea and severe discomfort setting in. Her husband and brother-in-law soon realized the seriousness of her condition and rushed her to Shatabdi Hospital. Despite the doctor's efforts, the damage from the poison was too extensive. Rekha's health deteriorated rapidly, and on July 22nd, just 2 days after the incident, she passed away. Her sudden death left her family devastated. The police launched an investigation into the tragedy. Rekha had managed to explain what had happened before her condition worsened. She told authorities that she had poisoned the tomatoes for the rats and accidentally used one while cooking. The police found no evidence of foul play and concluded that her death was...
Oh, at least she got to tell someone. 'Cause I was getting ready to jokingly say her husband and brother-in-law probably killed her. But she made a statement before she died, so that should have been good enough.
Tragic accident. The case was closed with an accidental death report. This heartbreaking incident highlights how quickly a simple mistake can lead to catastrophic consequences. It is a caution about the dangers of handling toxic substances.
Yeah, if you're going to poison food, keep that food separate from the food you're actually going to eat. That was her mistake. I don't know why she mixed it back with the other food. She should have never did that.
Just a month later, Mumbai saw another similar tragedy. On August 13th, 24-year-old Kajol Pawar, who lived in Andheri East's Saki Naka area, accidentally consumed rat poison, mistaking it for medicine for a stomachache.
Oh.
Kajol was home alone when the incident occurred. Realizing her mistake, she called her mother, Ananda Gavane, for help, explaining her symptoms and pleading for assistance. Her mother and brother rushed to her side and took her to a nearby private hospital. However, her condition required specialized care. 2 days later, she was transferred to Hiranandani Hospital, where doctors discovered severe liver damage caused by the poison. As her
Yeah, unfortunately, that's basically arsenic. There's not much people can do.
health continued to decline, Kajol was moved to Kem Hospital in Parel for further treatment. Despite the medical team's best efforts, Kajol's body couldn't recover from the internal damage. 6 days after the incident on August 19th, she passed away. Her husband, Abhishek Pawar, who had been on a trekking trip at the time, returned to the devastating news of her death. The police confirmed that Kajol's death was also accidental, with no signs of foul play. Like Rekha's case, Her passing was a grim reminder of how dangerous toxic substances can be if handled carelessly. These two incidents reveal the severe risks of keeping hazardous materials at home and the devastating consequences of even a moment's distraction. Both Rekha's and Kajol's stories emphasize the need for caution and awareness when dealing with such substances, as even the best intentions can lead to tragic outcomes. It was a quiet morning on August 16, 2010, in Nebworth, Hertfordshire. 43-year-old Mitchell Carey, a graphic designer and father of two, decided to skip breakfast that day. By lunchtime, he was hungry and went to a local cafe near his workplace to grab a quick meal. He chose a simple corned beef sandwich, unaware that this choice would lead to a tragic and rare medical
condition. You gotta be careful.
crisis. At first, everything seemed normal. Mitchell returned to work and ate his sandwich. But within 25 minutes, he began sweating heavily and complaining of severe stomach pain. The pain was so intense that he removed his clothes, describing it as 10 out of 10. Alarmed, his co-workers called for medical help. Paramedics arrived quickly and rushed Mitchell to Lister Hospital in Stevenage. Doctors initially thought it was a case of food poisoning. He was treated with painkillers and sent home the same day, instructed to rest and manage his symptoms.
Get him in, get him out. The man's stripping. He's in pain.
With medication. Unfortunately, Mitchell's condition worsened overnight. By the next day, August 17th, he was experiencing severe stomach cramps and uncontrollable vomiting. His health deteriorated rapidly and he collapsed at home. His wife, Debbie Carey, immediately called emergency services. When paramedics arrived, Mitchell was in critical condition. He was suffering from acute organ failure and had already endured a heart attack. He was rushed back to Lister Hospital, but despite the medical team's efforts, his condition
He should have never left the first time.
Kept declining. In the early hours of August 18th, Mitchell passed away due to multiple organ failure caused by a rare bacterial infection. The infection was later identified as Clostridium perfringens type A, a bacterium linked to food poisoning. This strain is so rare that
So it was food poisoning. It's just they should have took it more They should have took it more serious. So they were correct in that it was food poisoning, but they were incorrect on how serious to take it.
only 7 other cases have been reported worldwide. Once it enters the bloodstream, it is almost always fatal. In Mitchell's
So there was nothing they could have done.
case, the bacterium likely came from his corned beef sandwich. Doctors explained that the rapid onset of symptoms within just 25 minutes of eating strongly suggested the sandwich was the source. Environmental health officers tested corned beef from the cafe, found no contamination. While this made it impossible to confirm the exact source, the timeline of events left little doubt for medical experts and Mitchell's family. Mitchell's death was not the first tragedy for his family. He had been the widower of Anna Wilson, the daughter of TV presenter and former Arsenal goalkeeper Bob Wilson. Anna passed away in 1998 at just 31 years old after battling a rare and aggressive cancer called malignant schwannoma, which caused a large tumor in her chest. Mitchell and Anna had been married for 6 years at the time. After Anna's death, Mitchell remained close to her parents, Bob and Megs Wilson, who considered him a beloved member of their family. Bob, now retired and living in Dorset, said he was devastated by losing his son-in-law, describing him as dearly loved. In 2004, Mitchell found love again with Debbie Smith, a close friend of his late wife. The two married and built a life together in Nebworth, raising Mitchell's sons, Dylan and Ewan, who were 9 and 7 years old when he passed away. An inquest into Mitchell's death highlighted the shocking rarity of his condition. Coroner Edward Thomas called it an extremely rare case and said details would be shared with the Department of Health to raise awareness.
Yeah, I guess I was wrong in this case. It was food poisoning, but still, and apparently once you got it, that's it, that one particular strain of bacteria.
About the dangers of Clostridium perfringens type A. The official cause of death was ruled as multiple organ failure due to intravascular coagulation and enterocolitis caused by the bacterial infection. The cafe and its suppliers faced scrutiny following the tragedy, but no legal action was taken. Aldi, the retailer that supplied the corned beef, expressed confidence in their product safety and extended their condolences to Mitchell's family.
Yeah, if you tested everything. Well, then again, they could have got rid of all of it. As soon as they found out about that death, they're like, get rid of everything.
Untimely death left his family and community heartbroken. It is a reminder of how rare but devastating bacterial infections can be and the importance of vigilance in food safety practices.
So, it's not like no matter how careful you are, no, no matter how careful you are, you never know what's going to get you. Some of these, though, the hospital could have done a little more, and they just didn't. It's sad. A lot of these places are get them in, get them out type of places, and like I said, it's not just America; it's all over the world. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, I'll leave a link, and everyone take care. Later.